Jim Penniston not only walked around the craft he encountered in the Rendlesham forest, he touched it. He felt an electric current run through his body as if he was receiving information download that may have a wide range of implications. Let's explore. Hi everyone, and welcome to Project Blue Book, the place for the exploration of all things unidentified. I am Thor, and thanks for tuning in. Jim Penniston will be the first one to tell you he didn't want any of it. Not the attention, not the notoriety, and he was genuinely concerned about his military career due to his report about the UFO encounter he had on September 26, 1980, just outside the east gate of the Woodbridge base in Suffolk, England. It was also his first UFO encounter of any kind, but he had to tell the truth, so he wrote up a 4-page legal report and turned it in. He was responsible for base security and therefore trained in knowing behaviors as well as light signatures of multiple aircraft. He knew what different aircraft sounded like, behaved like, and what the lights they emitted looked like. When his superiors read his 4-page report, they turned around a heavily redacted and rewritten half-page statement and told him to memorize it because that was going to be all he would ever tell anyone, including that he never touched the craft, that he stayed 15 feet away from it, and that he didn't know what it was. Period. End of story. Whatever it was, they told him, it wasn't a UFO. And he did not have 45 minutes of missing time on his watch. And he did not experience an electric current that felt like information download into his brain due to a touch that never happened, they told him. With an impeccable service record, a stellar report card, and a pending recommendation for a promotion, this demand of him by his superiors to change the truth of what he saw, it agitated Jim tremendously, because it went against his nature as a straight arrow shooter that values loyalty, valor, and truth above all else. It was contradictory to him that he was being asked to lie in service of loyalty, but he cared about his military career, so he acquiesced. I believe this exact moment is worth pondering, as multitudes of military eyewitness servicemen and women face the same choice in the pressure chamber of the moment, created by superiors that hold their future in their hands. It is without doubt more logical for a normal serviceman to follow orders first, and in doing so, safeguard themselves and their careers. In other words, to not speak about it with anyone. Think about it, passing no judgment or blame. It makes sense. Later, in his barracks that night, Jim felt compelled to start writing a bunch of ones and zeros in a grid formation that kept visualizing in his mind's eye. They were so clear and vivid that he could see them as pictures right before his eyes, and he was able to replicate them on paper over time without having a clue or insight into what it actually was, what it meant, let alone knowing the concept of computational binary codes, which were known at the time but fairly obscure in the year 1980. Morse code was still the rapid message transmission language, but for giant computer processors that existed already at the decade marking the dawn of the computer age in 1980, binary code was already in use, only Jim had no knowledge of it, nor expertise. He just started writing, and oddly felt better as a result, so he kept writing, and he wrote pages of it. Over a period of weeks he felt better, and ended up storing his notebook away. He tried not to think about the encounter and went on to finish his military career without incident. 30 years later, in 2010, when asked about the pictures he drew of the glyph symbols, he remembered the notebook and pulled it out. The investigators at the time, noticing pages and pages of ones and zeros, asked him first, "What is this?" And he told them the story. They immediately sent it to a computer programmer versed in binary code, and what came back shocked everyone, not the least of all Jim Penniston himself. Not only was it decipherable, there was a message hidden in the binary code. The message to me seems almost as if designed for an encounter, someone asking, "Who are you and why are you?" In other words, it wasn't an off-the-shelf headline. It's as if perhaps instantly prepared in the moment, just for Jim's download, and it said, "Exploration of humanity, continuous for planetary advance, eyes of our eyes, origin year 8100. Jim never saw beings or inhabitants associated with the craft. It might as well have been a drone, predating the era of drones, even if unmanned aircraft did exist at the time within the US Air Force. A story for another episode. Jim also never felt this craft came from another planet. He never said it was an extraterrestrial aircraft. He sensed it might be from right here, perhaps from another dimension, perhaps from another time. The message can be interpreted, aside from the obvious phrase, exploration of humanity continuous for planetary advancement. The part that says eyes of our eyes, origin 8100, may mean the craft is from the year 8100, 6,000 years in the future, and the eyes of our eyes could literally mean the eyes of the craft, the eyes of those on the opposite end of this encounter, are our eyes of our eyes, from the year 8100, our future. It has arrived here through time travel for exploration of humanity and continuous planetary advancement. They're looking at their own past, our time, in the future, 6,000 years from now. There are countless other testimonies paralleling this notion that our future selves may be coming back to study us, perhaps retrieving DNA samples needed for whatever challenges may face humanity in the future. Some say reproductive. But let's not confuse this with Greys or any other parallel narratives of different species of aliens. This is simply about where the Rendlesham forest crafts may have come from and is purely theoretical. I don't, nor does Jim Pennison, pretend to know anything other than what he says he witnessed and experienced, and I am sharing with you here today. A physicist named Ronald Mallet, professor emeritus at University of Connecticut, has put forth a theory about time travel that he believes he has a formula for, and his conviction that a real time machine prototype can be developed based on his theory within decades. It is supported by Einstein's theory of relativity and suggests that a laser beam, when directed in a tightening circle, has the effect of warping the surrounding space, and as a result of the warping of space, he in essence would be bending time. If bent significantly, time folds back onto itself, creating an ability to quote-unquote travel back in time, at least as far back as such a machine being created and turned on can reach. As fate would have it, intriguingly, and it bear mention right here and now that Professor Mallet is not known to have any knowledge of Jim Pennison or his experiences, let alone the binary code downloaded into his brain, or his theory of them perhaps being from another time. But hear this. The delivery method of a message from the present to the past through his proposed machine, suggests Professor Mallet, should be in the form of a binary code. Let's listen.
Let's say I'll call the spin up a 1, and I'll call spin down a 0. So imagine I send a stream of neutrons with spin up, spin up, spin down, spin up. What do you call that? It's binary code. So by using the spin of neutrons, I can send a binary code, which can be translated into a message.
There is another supporting parallel to Jim's assertion of receiving messages through a binary code. Crop circles. Binary code messages have been hidden in crop circles for decades and have been deciphered by computer programmers since, including this one coming from a crop circle formed in August 2002 in Hampshire, United Kingdom, delivering this ominous message. Beware of the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. There is good out there. We oppose deception. Conduit closing. Another crop circle from 2017 with a simple binary inscription of pain written inside of it. And yet another one symbolizes the numerical order of pi. Many more are still being deciphered, including some that are theorized to hold three-dimensional architectural drawings for zero-point energy devices. The Hampshire crop circle binary coded message was accompanied by a picture of an alien gray. However, neither crop circles in general nor the Rendlesham incident have any direct correlation with alien beings. In that sense, crop circles, including where drones have sometimes been seen, shaped like Tic Tacs, do not in and of themselves point to UFOs. Their makers could be from another time or dimension, and some say they may even be us. It is important to make it clear that we have no evidence other than Jim Penniston's words, because from the time of the encounter and forward, none of his contemporary servicemen present at the incident can corroborate what he claims to have experienced upon approaching the craft by foot, alone, a record that was expunged from his military report. Jim has, however, offered to have his notes and pad subjected to an investigation to establish a minimum baseline of facts and truth. Jim Penniston has corroborative evidence for his Rendlesham Forest encounter because of his co-experiencers confirming it, John Burroughs, Charles Holt, and others. There are radiation detection and indent records that were discovered on the 28th of December, 2 days after the incident, and there is the Holt's memo and tapes. But Jim's claim of downloaded binary codes are his claims alone. It is interesting to note that in addition to the message Jim received, he also received coordinates for religious as well as historically insignificant places on Earth, places like the pyramids of Giza, the NASCAR lines, and the Temple of Apollo. The most obscure of the coordinates Jim's received has to be the one that randomly pins the Atlantic Ocean, in the middle of nowhere 300 miles west of Ireland, where there is nothing to see, at least according to modern maps. Dating back to the 1300s and 1400s, however, a medieval map shows an island there called Brazil, the one and the same island that is spoken of in Celtic mythology and called High Brazil, and some choose to call it the Celtic Atlantic. Why Jim Penniston would have received a download about this seemingly random location through an encounter with an unidentified aerial phenomena that landed in Rendlesham Forest in 1980 and he touched it, that remains a mystery. He had no knowledge of this place, its existence, let alone its binary codes for latitude or longitude, or for that matter, the use of binary code for message delivery. It remains a mystery for the taking to explore what we may yet discover at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, 300 miles west of Ireland, a topic for another episode. You can watch and listen to this and other podcasts on Project Blue Book, the place for the exploration of all things unidentified. Each day, let's practice compassion and kindness, and please subscribe. I am Thor, and thanks for listening. See you next time.